Hey, Northern Michigan. Joining me today is Congressman Jack Bergman, representing the 1st District for Michigan, the Northern Lower Peninsula, and the UP. Mr. Bergman, thanks so much for coming in.
Hey, Kevin, great to be here with you in studio.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're so glad to have you. So we want to talk about some pretty important things today. I want you to lay out what are some of the important things that you're planning to, help out Northern Michiganders with. What are some of the main issues around here?
Well, there's more than one main issue, but for the last 6 years, as the representative for the 1st District of Michigan, I've been on the Veterans Affairs Committee for 6 years, and that was my number one focus when I got there 6 years ago. It still is, to do the right thing for veterans and their families. Passed numerous pieces of legislation, a couple in particular. Gerald's Law, which was just recently signed into law, which enabled veterans who chose to leave veterans' homes and if you will, live out the rest of their days at home. Through a quirk in the law, they lost their veterans' benefits, their burial benefits. So we righted that wrong. We just passed the PACT Act, which is for finally, after decades, for especially guys my age and younger, the exposure to the toxic, whether it be burn pits, Agent Orange. The PACT Act was passed to enable veterans to get realistic disability claims, so that to ensure that they had a healthful life here. For some maladies they might have suffered because of their exposure. But whether it be on veterans, whether it be on armed services, those are the two committees that I serve on. Really the most important thing I think I'm doing right now is to do everything I can in Washington, D.C., working with others, Democrats and Republicans, working together to figure out ways to get the economy rolling. Because let's face it, if we don't have a strong economy, we don't have a strong America. And right now, and rightly so, Americans are concerned. Can they fill up their gas tank? Can they buy their groceries? Can they even maybe save, a few dollars at the end of the paycheck period? And we need to do better at that, because right now, the federal government has not been doing what it should be doing. And I'm not going to lay blame on the administration, but it's largely policies that create the negatives that we have. But, economy number one, economy number two. But the second thing is security. We want to feel as though we live in a secure country. That doesn't mean closing the borders. It means securing the borders so that people who are trying to come to the United States legally can go through the process, come here, bring their families, but you have to do it in a legal process. Third, when it comes to a free future, in other words, allowing our kids and our grandkids to live the American dream, to have a good education, but be able to be free to choose what they want to do. And of course, the last thing, as far as on the governmental side, we have to create an environment that's going to hold the government accountable for its actions. Nobody wants a rogue government, whether it's at the state level or the federal level. We have to ensure that people in elected office or appointed are held accountable.
Well, let's go through kind of each one of those things. Let's talk about veterans, as was our first thing. Recently, we had a situation in Alcona County where they wanted to move their Veterans Affairs office to another location, because right now they're working in a box, basically, and not really any privacy for the veterans that come in for service. So they're looking to move their location to Lincoln to make it a more central location for veterans in the area for Alcona County. So right now, do you think we're at an okay level of support for veterans in Northern Michigan, or do you think we can still do better?
Well, again, my perspective is at the federal level. So what you just discussed here, that's going to be a decision that's based in Lansing at the Michigan state level. So your representatives here will have total control over that. But the idea, across the board since COVID, one of the biggest advances we've had with veterans has been the acceptance of telehealth for veterans getting their appointments because we couldn't go to a doctor. So whether it's a veteran service office like you were talking about, or the advancement of just telehealth capabilities. It could be at the local library, somewhere where you have a private room where that veteran can go and have a consultation with someone, whether it be on a video screen or face-to-face. That privacy is something that I believe that's something that Lansing can do and the Michigan State veterans can do to work together. And what I'll do is I'll support them wherever I can from the federal side.
Let's move on to the economy. As you mentioned, something you left out, gas prices. Right now they're above $4.30, I think was the last I checked, in our area at least. So what's your take on the gas prices situation right now? Because we just saw a big boost again.
Well, it's pretty a law of supply and demand. When the Biden administration came in, a year and a half plus ago, they declared war on energy. We went from energy independence to now dependence. You saw in the news with the Saudis and the OPEC nations cutting oil productions. You can't. My mother would have said, "Don't cut off your nose to spite your face." If you will, the administration has made a serious blunder when it comes to cutting our production, because now we're held hostage by the OPEC countries, if you will, as we used to call them, for our energy dependence. That makes no sense. That just defies any logic, because it's now coming out of our people's pockets for a bad administration policy.
And how do we correct that, Mr. Bergman?
Well, you basically, again, this was at the Washington, D.C. level. You as the President of the United States, if you were the President of the United States, saying, you know what, I'm going to increase oil production. I'm going to authorize the leases to drill. I'm going to do all of those things that enable our companies who do that to produce. Whether it's natural gas, no matter what it is, we have sources of energy untapped in our country that are not going to destroy the environment. All we have to do is set a standard for emissions. If there's an agreement on what the emission rate is, the private sector will figure that out. We don't need to destroy our own economy just to please a very small segment of people who really don't have an understanding of what it really means to have a productive economy.
And another big topic here in northern Michigan, Line 5. People are worried, it could break, but the other side says we need it. We need it to...
Well, first of all, Line 5 is safe. It has been safe. It has always been safe. Did an anchor hit it? Yes, I remember that. That's pure negligence, but it didn't break it. But the point is, anything. I was an airline pilot. I used to fly in and out of Alpena. And if an airplane wasn't safe, I didn't take it into the sky. We inspect them every day. Same with Line 5. That line is so safe because it's monitored 24/7 all the time. And the bottom line is that is the term red herring that's put up there by some people, because they are trying to destroy the livelihood of too many people in northern Michigan and the UP.
And right now, Governor Whitmer is trying to shut down Line 5. So I kind of want to segue this into, you mentioned government and how they work together, Democrats and Republicans. What would you say the state of, working together is right now between the two parties in this country?
Well, again, I'll speak at it at the Washington, D.C. level, because I don't work in Lansing.
Right.
Lansing is its own environment there, is how they work together down there. But the only thing I feel bad for the American people for is you do not see in Washington, D.C., Democrats and Republicans, rank and file members of Congress like me, working together all day, every day, to hash out good policy. It's the media chooses. Normal behavior is not exciting. People go into work every day to do that. So what the American people see too often is behavior way over here or behavior way over there that doesn't reflect the reality of what's going on in D.C. So I'm here to tell you there are people working together, but we need leadership at all levels to bring people together for a common purpose. to basically ensure that our American way of life and what we stand for, we are the greatest country in the world. We're not perfect, never have been, never will be. But we're great because we step up and help each other and help others outside of our country when they need it.
All right, and coming up, re-election coming up for you. So tell us why our voters should be voting for you and instead of your opponents in this coming election.
Well, I'll never talk about my opponents because the bottom line is they are who they are. They'd all like my job. Some days it's an interesting job to have, but the proof is in the pudding. I've got the greatest staff in the world. The voters of the 1st District know that when they wake up in the morning, they've got a listening ear, whether it be in our office here in Traverse City, our offices above the bridge. But we do the work for the constituents. In fact, just a little data point. Usually every year, we haven't gotten the number yet for this year, but we will recover somewhere in the millions of dollars for our constituents where they got improper payments or no payments, from the government. So we do a lot every day to earn the respect and to earn the votes of the constituents here of the 1st District. The one thing I do encourage everyone is vote. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, that's your choice. But when you vote, you honor the service of the men and women who fought for that right to vote.
Right now, lots of controversy over voting security and election fraud. So what is your take on that right now? Do you think our elections are safe right now?
Well, here's what I would suggest. I grew up in a family where my dad was a village clerk. My mother worked every election, as one of the people taking the names at the, at the polls in a small town. But if everybody got involved, whether you be a poll watcher, poll worker, got involved and did a little bit to ensure the integrity of the election at all levels, we'll be just fine. It's when people don't get involved and just leave it to others. It's about trust, but as Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. So get involved on election day. Get involved to be proactive so that when the vote is being counted that number one, it was legally cast, and number two, it was accurately counted, and we'll be just fine.
All right, Mr. Bergman, I think those are all my questions I have for you today. Is there anything you want to say in closing for us?
No, just, it's an honor and a pleasure to represent the constituents of the 1st District in Washington, D.C., because as I drive around the district right now, I've got some of the most beautiful fall colors pictures to take back, and I'm the envy of my colleagues in Congress when they say, holy cow, is that beautiful up there?
Yeah, definitely. All the leaves are changing. They're right in the middle right now, so it's a beautiful time in northern Michigan. Representative Bergman, thank you so much for hopping in with us today. Thanks for dropping by. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, and I'm Kevin Hodge. Thanks for watching Northern Michigan.